Okay, so getting ready to disassemble this thing. Just gonna go over some stuff that problematic, what I don't like about this base. I've gone over a few things I like, a couple things I don't like. I got some problems with the nut here. First of all, the action's just way too low. You know, I gotta jam this 20 thou to try to get it in there. I want that at like 20, 22, something like that. This nut is also, don't know if I can get that. It's grooved way too deep. I think somebody slotted it to get the action down at the nut. Now, I have this weird issue. I hate throwing more money into an instrument than I paid for it. This one could be good on drums, so I'm probably going to have to shim and fill this nut. Because, I mean, a new nut blank's going to cost me more than this, because I've got nothing this skinny kicking around. The frets are in relatively good shape. I think there's a couple of high ones, but I still can't find my fret rocker, so I'm going to have to do it old school to check that. We'll figure, hey, where I got the theme song from. Got to fix the pickup. I want to poke underneath this, see what's happening. And really, I got to clean this thing up. It's really gross. So, the setup oddly isn't bad on this thing, which is strange. Truss rod works. So there you go. So I'm gonna de-string and get rid of these gross strings. I have this thing against used strings. I swear they're covered in hepatitis or Ebola or something. So, and we'll start fresh here. I mentioned it felt like these had some backlash. Nah, they're loose. So I gotta tighten these up, which is not a big surprise. I think it's just this one was the loosest. That's why I noticed it the most. So. Maybe I could turn these into D-tunas. Just realized the string tree. Actually a decent string tree. It's not tight. All of these gotta get tightened up, but I mean that's actually used some pretty good hardware on this thing considering this is econo. Interesting. So worst comes to worst, probably got at least 15 bucks worth of parts off this thing. Cool. Okay, classic cheapy bridge. That's how much play there is in the screw on it. And like I said, it has no ramps. Let me just move these out of the way. There's no ramp to it, so it's, yeah, that's fine. This thing's, ew, it's dusty. Ew, it's all dirty. Now, the more I work on this thing, the more it's kind of shocking me. It's actually got a rubber plate. That's really interesting. I'm starting to think that this thing was probably built at a factory where they actually built half-decent stuff, and this was like cheap stuff that they were building just to, you know, pay the rent or something. They've been built in a factory with some good parts, but you can tell they weren't paying for labor on this thing. So, the string that was going off, I discovered, is because it's a little wiggly in the neck pocket. And when they mounted the neck on, come on neck, it's actually fairly tight, but you can see they're quite off on this. But I got enough play on this, I might just plug these, the holes in the neck and re-drill them. See if I can bring this in a little more square. That's some good news actually. Let's get to the guts. Interesting thing, I don't think too many people have been in here before me. Nothing's stripped. And this is turning into a really good $15 purchase. Old school construction. That is hilarious. Man. And, yeah, itty bitty pots, but they're working. And, where are we here? 3-ply guard. It's a shame it's so small, but wow. This is very interesting. Like I said, I'm still impressed. That is, given the price of this thing, that's a hell of a good attempt at a 3-color burst, I gotta say. So, but let's take some lookies in here, shall we? Yeah, that's solid. That's very interesting. A lot of chatter on this. That's all those vertical lines in there would be called chatter in the industry, which is just basically they were routing it and it kind of went like it's a lot of little micro bevels in here, but interesting, very interesting. Okay, stripped up, just got to clean it up. There's some really weird gunk on this thing. A couple of spots. I think somebody was using furniture polish on it, so we'll get rid of that. Okay, so I took all the tension off the neck now. I'm going to give this a quick clean. Figure from there. Problem is, it's one of those situations where there's loads of dust, and it's like, oh, do I clean the dust or do I clean the board first? So, and yeah, definitely somebody got in here and slotted these down. It's gonna be fun. And that is one tight nut slot. Beautifully clean too. I don't even think they ever use any glue, but yeah, somebody's been at this thing. What to do? Baking soda and a little bit of crazy glue in there. This dollar store crazy glue in these beautiful little packets that I like, you can't mix, it just turns into a solid lump. So I had to fill them and then tap them, which is always way more precarious, and probably is dry enough now. The only thing I could find for a shim that was thin enough is a little piece of plastic, but I figured plastic on plastic, for what this base is, isn't going to matter. This just means I got to clean up a lot more of this, but you know what? That's why we came up with chisels. And again, budget instruments, I'm paranoid. I'm going to be leaving this neck off overnight, so I'm just clamping it to the table here, just to make sure it doesn't wiggle too much. It's okay piece of maple. It's cut really weird. Oh, I think it's kind of random cut, so a little paranoid on that. Oh, actually, I was going to glue those up first. I'm going to glue up those holes, and then I think I'm going to call it a night and let some glue dry up. Old woodworker's adage. Try to live by this. Anytime that you need to buy something like doweling or sandpaper, buy twice as much as what you need, and always buy the size or the grit or whatever higher and lower than what you're buying. And learn how to store it. Always comes in handy. Okay, so now, passage of time, passage of time. Okay, so I cleaned her up. Not much I had to do. That was actually a finished boo-boo that was there. That wasn't just... There was some polish or something on here that I had to get rid of. This guard was cut really tight. Needed to file to get the pickups back in. And there's actually a little bit of a hang here. So I'm going to file that back just to be paranoid. And I got to clean this up a bit in here too. And actually the neck was fairly clean. It distinctly requires some oil, though it's very dry. I found the high fret. Where is it? That one. You can tell by the glitching on it. I'm going to have to dress everything, so I just got it leveled for now, roughly crowned. Still can't find my fret leveler, so it's a mixture of small ruler I got, and you know, if you're ever really stuck and you're trying to figure out whether or not you need to check your frets, bolt-on guitars tend to have one. It actually works pretty well. You know, obviously it's very short, so you got to kind of watch it, but it works. So I'm gonna oil off here, and as usual, lemon oil. I was always told lemon oil by the text, so this guy's almost done though, so we're gonna try some other stuff later. There's a lot of info regarding oiling fretboards. Some people say you don't do it. Some people say a tiny bit and then wipe it right off. Some people say let it sit. I say it's where you're from. Again, I'm in Edmonton. I'm in northern Canada. The furnaces are on for 6 months out of the year and will be soon. And I've just found that you need to put on a fair amount and let it soak in, let it pickle, as some people like to say. If you're in a more temperate place, you may not need that. If you're in a very humid place where it's pretty even year round, may not need to do that. But I'm in a dry place, so extra oil never seems to hurt things. And it's not like the wood is going to absorb more than it can, okay? It's not like anything ever ends up gummy. So I'm going to oil this. This is all stuff that's really boring to shoot. That's why I'm skipping over it. So that's a pretty significant amount that I put on here. And there are some spots where it's starting to dry off already. That's how dry this darn thing is. And I've kind of mentioned this before, I get paranoid. So I'm going to do the nut slot and I'm going to do the tuner holes. Basically any place on the neck, even in here, truss rod cavity, any place where there's exposed wood, just because I'm in a dry place. And it helps. It helps a lot. So it's actually a kind of a neat streaky piece of wood they use there too. Now I've mentioned before I spent a lot of the 90s doing fix and flips on cheap instruments and stuff, and we didn't have all these fancy tools and doodads that people have nowadays. The only place where you could get that stuff from was Loser Mac, and they were so damned expensive. They still are. They just gouge on international shipping. So you'd have to make your own. So, oh, and then I drop it. There's my fret guard. Ain't fancy, but you know what? She works fine. So, we're going to do some sandpapering. So we're going to start off, that's 320, which is a little heavier than I want, but I had to dress some of these. So, got to get rid of some scratches. Then I'll be heading off on some 600 here. And then, maybe not that piece, it's shot. And then, remember I was talking about when you're loading up on stuff? Like, you know, if you're buying sandpaper, grab like either side or grit that you want. Well, the fat man forgot to load up on fine grade sandpaper last time he was at Ukrainian Tire. So, we gotta go old school. And I hate going old school now, but whatever. And that's down to just a little dot now that'll probably be taken off with the next coat. So for the people who are like, no, you can't do this with sandpaper, yeah, you can. Shut up. They're shining up pretty good. Pretty soft fret metal, I gotta say, on these. This might need a little bit of crowning once I'm done. And that's only sandpaper. That's something you run into with cheap guitars a lot. Again, necessity, the mother of invention. So, crowning tool, a real quick one to go with. I had a bunch of erasers, and I don't know what happened to them. I do have a piece of cork here from spare one for my soldering gun. And I'm just going to take this round file, and I'm going to round a notch in this that I'm going to use as a burnisher to recrown these things. You'll see in a sec. So all I've done is I've cut a little round channel in this that will fit over the fret. Just wrap some sandpaper around this, and it helps to round this over and crown it. So I'm going to hit this fret, because this is one of the ones I had to file down that was sitting high. Can't do this one, Anna, give me a sec. Okay, and that's maybe 5 seconds in. And see how I was rounding it already. See, you don't need high-tech tools to do this stuff. Now, does this technique do as good of a job as me sitting down with a bunch of, where's file? A bunch of files and doing it that way? No, but it's quick and dirty and it works well. And like I said, it's pretty soft fret wire. So I'm a little bit worried about just crowning and then smoothing and crowning and smoothing. Quick and dirty gets it done. Some people might go, geez, you know, why is everybody down on steel wool now when everybody used it for years? Well, here's my opinion, and this is what it comes down to. The quality of this stuff has collapsed in the last 20 years. You know, you go to buy quadruple O now, and it's about what double O used to be, you know, going back 20 years ago. And you get a lot of really, really, really oily stuff, I find. Focus. There you go. Which doesn't help on guitars. Maybe if you're doing metalworking, it works. Big trick, if you are going to be grabbing steel wool to work on your guitars, go to a craft shop and pick up steel wool from there, because it tends to be a lot cleaner. Even the stuff that you get at, you know, home improvement stores in the paint section now, it's just so darn oily. It just doesn't work. So, those are shining up real nice. Okay, and cleaning off the goop, with just some isopropyl. It's the easiest way to go. If you remember how much I sealed this board, you know, everyone's like, oh my god, that stuff's going to drip off. Well, it's not. I didn't wipe this. Almost needs a second coat, like that's how dry it was, so we're going to see about that. This is kind of coarsely cut on this one. It's not going on very well. So we're going to lube it up. And again, you know, do the old woodworker's trick. What you want to go with, something simple for lube. Tiny bit of dish soap. That's all it's going to need. Just in here and over there. So I got them roughly tightened. Put the back set screws in. Then I'll tighten these guys down with Mr. Wrench. Mr. Wrench. Mainly because I can't find a socket big enough offhand. Okay quality components, but you can see from the tuner spacing, they kind of slap this together. Concept a lot of people don't seem to understand about a lot of modern instruments. It's not really a question of cheaping out on components. It's construction time. So basically what's coming out of Asia right now is copying what's been happening in America since, you know, late 60s. Spend as little time as you can and get them out the door. So anyways, that's done. Let's play with that nut now. Okay, so I'm going to pre-slot these. Again, I kind of differ with a lot of people. What I'll do, this will focus. I'll start with a triangle style to start cutting the groove, and then I'll finish it off with a round file. Oftentimes, I'll also just use an old piece of guitar string or bass string and use that to do the final cut as well. And again, yeah, fancy tools. These are what? Vector! Don't even know where I got these. I've had these a long, long time. I know these things I picked up at Dollarama. See? Yes, I'm Scottish. Have you figured this out yet? When they built the pyramids, they didn't have any crazy specialty tools. When they built the Sistine Chapel, they didn't have that. You do with what you got. Yeah, there are times when it's worth investing in, but you know what? That's usually a question of if you're doing a gazillion instruments. It might be worth it. I know the one trick I gotta try, and I keep forgetting to go and check these out, is chainsaw files. Apparently are really good for doing this. So, just gonna round these off, and then we'll see about remounting this neck on a little bit better. If you remember, the G-string was flying off the neck because the neck was on a little crooked. Plug the holes. That should pull it about as far as I can towards the low E side while I re-drill holes here. So, mainly because I don't have a clamp that can open that big, that wouldn't mar the crap out of this bass. So, I'm going to try this new experiment. I'm just carefully drilling down a little bit just so I have marks, and then we're going to drill some pilot holes. My marks work out to be about a third this way of where the original holes were. So we're going to do it old school, just reefing down with the screwdriver, just cutting at the same time, and again a little bit of soap on the screwdriver just to help it thread. Not the way I prefer doing it, but the problem is guaranteed if I try to drill pilots into these, I'm going to lose that tiny bit of width. So we'll see. Okay, we're gonna have to see how that works, and the only way we can do that, gotta get some strings on this baby. Almost there. And speaking of always being prepared, guess what I actually have kicking around here? If you shop at a music place that has like a clearance section for strings and stuff, always check it out. When I got these to the till, I think they actually only charged me $10 on these things because I was buying something else. Who the hell would want super light gauge short scale strings? But we're going to try them out. Got them around. So a lot better than the grease balls that are over there. And guaranteed that those bozos are not going to have any other short scale strings in stock. Idiots. So just as I suspected, neck is a little narrow here. I did correct that. It's a little far over here for me, but that's the way it goes. Problem is, that's what I get for bragging and deciding to string a bass when I'm not awake. And I cut the low E way too short. So maybe when I get the action down to where I want it, I'll gain a bit, but so I'm going to end up spending more on strings than this bass cost me. Yeah. Okay, and I just ripped out the shim that I put in there because actually filling the top gave me more than enough. Holy crow, I didn't realize how deep those were. So, like I said, I was just doing the initial notch on these, so I'm going to have to bring these down because, whoa, that's pretty impressive. And the other thing, I don't know, I never really got a good shot of it, but the action was good. The truss rod had some tension, so that's showing you how much that truss rod was doing some work. So we're going to have to do some work there. And you know, it's not bad. It's got that P sound, which is really bizarre. So, and I'm just going through the Powerblock. Yet another video I got to go through one of these days about the Powerblock. There's some DI mixed in and some mic that's in PJ56 here, PG56, sorry. It's an interesting pickup that's on here. It's actually a lot higher output than you figure for the price. One thing I find is that you gotta kind of roll back the tone because when it's wide open, it's a little snarky, kind of that Jean-Jacques Brunel sort of sound, which is good. And definitely if you're trying to get into like Duck Dunn territory, like super dark, it's murky. So it just has to be opened up a bit, a little bit of a buzz. Still got to do some work on the frets, but I mean, this is really a question of, you know, do I want to recrown the whole thing or just deal with some fret buzz? And I really don't care about buzz, so it doesn't bug me. One thing I find really interesting about this bass, outside of the fact the body's so damn small, it's actually a hair smaller than a Strat. It's actually smaller that way. It's definitely much more of a pick bass, I find, which is odd because I'm not really a pick bass player anymore. So this is good to bring me back into that. It just has that. Really good for that, and it's good for like digging in on, which is kind of cool. I was going to figure out a whole bunch of riffs to impress everyone with, and yeah, forget it. It's not going to happen. Basically, this is going to be called Morton, after Rocket Morton. I've been listening to tons of Beefheart lately, and I forgot what a great bass player he was. But just, yeah, I ain't got those chops. Give me about 2 years and I might get those chops back. So, but I mean, so it's noodle day. But I mean, I don't know, even know what I can noodle on this. It's a bait. It's totally got what you want for bass, and like I said, it's got some of that growl. You can chord it, which is cool. A lot of gain on this thing, and you can go into Lemmy territory, which is kind of fun. I didn't feel like hooking up the OD and everything. So yeah, I'm gonna be using this. Noodling around, coming up with certain parts. The low E vibrates pretty well. It's relatively tight, which is kind of impressive. This thing's a pig to play though because the pickups had to be so far back. I got no place to rest my hand on. So I want it for doing noodling around, trying to figure out the Watt-isms because everything Mike Watt's been doing in the last decade, short scale, and man, some of that stuff, it just hurts to play long scale. And the other thing, which because this is pick really excels at, is the ant whistleism I've been wanting to try for years, which is I can play with pick, I can play with fingers, so do both. Which I do on guitar. It's just I've never really done it on bass. And this thing, because it kind of likes being picked, it works. So yeah, there you go. 15 bucks. Can't complain too much. Definitely don't like the width down at the neck or down at the nut. Way too skinny for me, but whatever for the price. I'm not going to complain. And now I'm getting obsessed that I need some other short scales. I got to get back into bass. I've been playing bass for 2 years less than I've been playing guitar. So that would have been like 81. I picked up playing bass, and I'm not kidding you. I've maybe practiced for 2 years in that time. It just, for some reason, it's natural. So, whatever. We'll figure it out. Gives me an excuse, something to bang around on this winter, which is cool. So there you go. That was Morton. Hopefully you learned a couple of things. I did. First thing I learned is don't shoot video while you're stringing a bass because when you clip bass strings too short, it's really a pig. There you go. Big Earl Northtown Sound. That's northtownsound.com. Check out the pedals. Just waiting for my suppliers to get back from mid-autumn holiday, get some more stuff in, and see what the Chinese music show brings in for some more good stuff. So in the meantime and in between time, thanks a lot for watching.